Welcome to Who Knows Real Estate, Episode 9, Secrets of Flipping Homes. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jim. And today our guest is Jeff Johnson, and he's the co-founder of Better Path Homes, which is one of Charlotte's largest wholesalers and flipping companies. Jeff shares lessons he's learned from flipping hundreds of homes, like how to find and retain great contractors, how he uses systems to scale his business so he can focus on some of his other passions and giving back, and why he looks for multiple strategies on every single property. This is a must listen. Here it is. Awesome. So thanks for coming on, Jeff. Super excited to have you. I've known you for almost a year now, and I'm excited to learn more from you about real estate. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about how you got into real estate?
Okay. How I got into real estate. Well, I always loved real estate. I mean, I grew up in a house that was built in the 1890s, and literally I think that was my whole childhood, was rehabbing that house. So I was around trades my whole childhood and all kinds of stuff going on. And then when I got out of college, I bought my first house like right out of college. It was an old 1920s Craftsman, and we fixed that thing up and sold it and made a little bit of money. I was like, huh. So I always had that kind of itch.
Yeah.
In the back of my mind. And I got an engineering degree, so I was actually working in the engineering field for quite a while. In construction, believe it or not, I was in the construction side of the engineering field. And then we moved to Charlotte, and it was right after the crash, right after the housing crash in 2007 is when we moved up here. Thank God we did, because we were living in Florida. So we ended up staying there for a while, being upside down on our house. But I just kept kind of just watching the market and decided to I took a course from a guru out in Sacramento, flew out there and did like a 5-day boot camp. And, she taught me the basics about doing real estate. And I came back to Charlotte and just put my nose to the grindstone. It took me 9 months to get my first deal, but I just was consistent on the phone every week, because I was only doing it 1 day a week. That's probably the reason it took me so long. But just on the phone. And, if you contact enough people, eventually something's going to happen. Yeah. Yeah. So I got my first deal, I think I made 23 grand or something like that. And I was just like, okay, I'm doing this.
Yeah. That's awesome. And what's your first deal, a flip or?
Yeah, it was a flip, an Indian Trail. A contractor got put in jail about 2/3 of the way through the project for crack possession.
Wow.
So good. That was a good first deal. So I ended up doing the rest of the work myself.
Yeah. At least you had some experience.
Yeah.
Right?
At least I know what I was doing, luckily. So that came in handy. But yeah, that was my first experience with a flip. And then the second one I got sued on, which was interesting. Man. So I really shouldn't be in this business anymore, but I really have to love it if I went through those two experiences and I still ended up, full-time in real estate. So
that's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about like what you've done over the last couple of years and where you guys are at now as a company?
Okay. So last couple of years, so in about late 2014, I started doing new construction. I just happened upon a lot. It sort of dropped in my lap and I just went for it. And after that experience and just the simplicity of it, I decided that's what I want to do. I want to do more of that. So I ended up doing quite a bit more new construction while still doing a whole bunch of rehabs. And I think while I was on my own, before I partnered up with the Betters, I was doing 15 at a time. So it was busy.
Wow.
And I had a project manager and I had an acquisitions manager. So I wasn't doing all the work myself, but just managing that many jobs was a lot of work. And so about this time last year, in fact, it was right around this time last year, me and Stephanie and Zach Betters, those guys, we started talking about partnering up. I had skills they didn't have. They had skills I don't have. And they're just fantastic at marketing. And Stephanie's a wonderful integrator. And Zach is just, as far as marketing goes, he's just amazing. So we decided to form a new company. So we've sort of phasing out our old companies. I'm still got some projects I'm doing in my company that I had before we joined up, but we just went all in Better Path Homes and just creating systems. So that's been the big thing that we've been doing for the past year, is creating systems inside of our real estate business to automate what we're doing. Yeah. And that's anything from training employees to, how do we run a deal through the system? How do you wholesale a deal? How do you advertise? I mean, marketing, everything. We're building systems for all that. So that's really what we've been focusing on. And we're just now starting to see the fruit of all that work over the past year.
That's awesome. I'm super excited to talk about like the systems that you've built, because I know you are like a systems guy.
Well, I'm personally like, I don't like to build systems. I like systems.
You like systems
in general. Don't make me. I don't want to be building those systems, but I see the huge benefit in having systems.
Yeah,
because in this business, especially in rehab, everything's different. Every single property is different. You might have one that's got an addition, and then you've got another one that you're gutting and adding a bathroom inside. I mean, it's just everything's different.
Yeah,
different neighborhoods, and it's so you have to have those systems. Otherwise, that's all you do is just run around doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah. How many flips do you think you guys have done over the last 5 to 10 years around Charlotte?
Let's see, I started in 2009. So since I started in 2009, now both of us combined have done a couple hundred together. Wow. If we combine it, I think I've done 100, 140, 150, something like that. I lost count.
Yeah, that's a lot of flips.
It's significant. I mean, you start out doing 1 or 2, and then pretty soon you're doing 4, and then it's 7, and then it's 12, and then you're going,
yeah.
And 15, I'm going, okay, no mas. But I remember, in 2016, 2017, if I had less than 9 properties on the board that I was actively working on, I was starting to get nervous. Yeah. I was actively looking for more properties. So,
can you talk a little bit about like the basics of flipping, of how you're finding deals, what kind of renovations you were doing, and what timeline, and then how you were actually getting subcontractors or contractors for that? Like just a high-level overview of when you guys are active.
And that changes about every 3 months, especially the marketing piece. Any book that anyone's read on marketing for real estate, just throw it away, because it literally changes every 3 months. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going to the internet. The problem with internet marketing, of course, is you have all of the hedge funds and iBuyers out there just completely flood. Every week I see Facebook just flooded with new iBuyers, offering to pay full price for these people's houses, and it's impossible to compete with that. So you have to kind of pivot and do something different. So that's what we've done. We still use a lot of tech marketing. We use Facebook and the internet, but our tack is a little bit different. So we're looking for a different kind of seller than those iBuyers. iBuyers is all about commoditization, right? So they're like, how much is your house worth? We'll pay you that much. We can't make money like that. I don't know how they're making money. I guess they've figured out some magic formula where they can pay retail, sell the house for less than they paid for it, and still make a profit. Or I have no idea how they're doing it. I think it's all going to come crashing down around them pretty soon, but that's just my opinion. Those people are probably smarter than me, but we've had to constantly evolve, and that's one thing that my partner Zach is really good at is just watching the real estate market. He's got we've got a great network in the masterminds that we're in of people who are doing what we do, and they're testing these things in other markets too, and we're able to take that information and use it to develop our marketing plan, which is really awesome. So, and then we'll split test things and we'll give them that information. So we're all kind of helping each other, because we're not really competitors. They're in other markets in the country, and that really has helped out a lot. So we've started all kinds of different campaigns, and we're still, just like everybody, we're still doing mailing campaigns. They just, you see the percentage response has dropped from, 3% 5 years ago, then it's like 2%, and then it's 1%, and then it's 0.5%. If you get 0.5% response, you're like, all right, it's working. And then, you're going out to properties, and there's already been 3 or 4 investors out there. So it's just, you have to develop systems that help you stand out, really is what it comes down to. And we're not doing anything magical. I mean, you can go on YouTube and figure out the 14 different ways that we market for properties. We just try and do it better than everybody else.
Yeah. How do you guys try to separate yourselves? Because I've been on appointments because we send direct mail out, and I've seen a stack of 30 postcards, letters, handwritten notes.
Sure.
How do you stand out from 30 others saying similar things?
Well, number one, we've been in business for 10 years. So I've got a 10-year track record, which right there wipes out about 90% of your competition. And we also, we have the capability to actually buy every house that we walk into an appointment on. So, a lot of these guys are just going to wholesale. Not that we don't wholesale, because we do, but if we have to close on something, we will. So that's another way we kind of set ourselves apart from a lot of the competition. The fact that we're family owned, we're local, we put a face to our company, and we built a brand here locally too. So we've got, reviews, and people want to do business with people that they trust. Yeah. So we want to be that trusted business is kind of where kind of where we're at. We're not just some guy that shows up in a tracksuit and, throws them an offer that they're going to renegotiate later.
Yeah.
So that's it in a nutshell. And it's nothing. It's not any different than HVAC businesses or electrical business or whatever in the community that you want to do business with people you like and trust. So we want to be that business. I mean, it's no huge secret.
No, I love that. Can you talk a little bit about like what your buying box looks like for when you look at flips and like what you kind of look for, whether it's your build or size of the property or only this level of rehab? Like, what does that normally look like for you?
Well, that's a loaded question. So as far as flips go, we've pulled out of the higher end market. So, anything over 400, 450K, we're going to pass on that most of the time unless there's just a ridiculously sick margin on it. I just see a lot of risk in that price point. Now we are building in that price point, but I feel a lot more comfortable building in the areas we're building in at that price point than trying to rehab and flip. So we sort of pulled out of that higher end market where I was really dabbling in that a lot a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I don't want to get caught with, $500,000 properties if all of a sudden the interest rates go up 2% and people decide they don't want to move to Charlotte anymore. Not that I don't think that's going to happen, but we're really trying to hedge our bets there. So really we're looking at how much profit can we make?
Yeah.
And do we have multiple exit strategies on a deal we buy? So I don't ever want to get into a deal where our only exit strategy is Airbnb or rental. I mean, like even for a rental property, I want to be able to wholesale it, rehab and flip it, rent it, Airbnb it, lease option it. I want to have as many exit strategies as I can possibly have. If I've got one, we got a problem.
Yeah. I
got to be able to at least flip it or rent it. I may not be able to wholesale it, but I got to at least be able to flip it or rent it. And the ones that we've bought, and I'm not saying we haven't made mistakes because we have.
Yeah.
The ones that we purchased where we only had one exit strategy have bitten us almost every time. It's quite amazing. So that's probably the biggest thing. We don't have specific areas where like we won't buy here, we'll buy anywhere as long as the profit margin is right. And the nice thing about that is having systems, we can figure out how to make that work. So let's say we buy, we're starting to buy stuff in Gastonia. We figured out a system how to do rehabs in Gastonia. I didn't ever want to go to Gastonia, but here we are. You know?
What does a rental look like for you? If you do a rental, what kind of numbers are you looking at?
My partners and I differ on this a little bit. I want to make $400 a door. I want to net $400 a door. Their number's $200. I like $400 because I know I can replace an AC unit and still break even over a year. And I just replaced two at two of my rentals. So I know what I'm talking about. To have to recover an AC cost over 2 years, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. But all of my rentals have way better margins than that. Way, way, way better margins. I like to buy a property for $60,000 and rent it out for $1,200 or $1,300 a month.
Are you finding those in Charlotte or in the second? Really?
Mostly secondary markets. Yeah. In fact, the rental I went to today is up in Mount Holly, and I paid $80 for that, and it rents out at $1,300 a month. I like those numbers.
Yeah, that's a great market too.
Yeah. I'm not a 1% guy. I know a lot of people look at the 1% rule, but one heavy maintenance year, and you're going to be upside down on that property. And I know it's a nice tax write-off, but I want money in my pocket. So we're really careful about how we buy rentals, and I'll build my rental portfolio slower, but I'm also going to have less properties to manage and maintain while making the same amount of profit down the road.
Yeah, I love that, having multiple exit strategies for properties.
Yep.
Do you maintain those multiple exit strategies like throughout the renovation progress, or is that really just on the front end to figure out?
So the way it's been working for us lately, and I really like this method, just with the number of buyers we have, cash buyers we have in Charlotte, we'll try and wholesale everything first.
Yeah.
We'll put it out there. If we really want to rehab it, we'll put it out there maybe at a little higher price. Yeah. And if nobody picks it up, then we'll rehab it. And some we just go straight to rehab because it's just crazy numbers. Yeah. And we just don't want to, we're not going to let it go. We just bought one up on Downs Avenue, up in Plaza Shamrock area. And we just looked at the numbers and we're like, we got to rehab this thing. We got to put $10,000 into it. We're going to make $60,000. That's be silly to wholesale that thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So we do a lot of those, but we will try and wholesale everything. So we will send it out to our different lists. So we have what we call the Ultra VIP list. And these are people that have bought 2 or more properties from us, or I'm sorry, 3 or more properties from us. And then they can also get on that list if they want to pay us $500 a month. So it's a paid list as well. But they get all our deals within 24 hours of us getting them under contract. So that's going to be their best. The best way that they're going to get great deals is they're going to get those first. So I would say at least half of our deals fly off the shelf in the ultra VIP phase. And then we go to the VIP list, which is people that have bought 1 or 2 deals from us. And then also people that I know personally and have relationships with, and that our acquisitions agent has relationships with, and they've been vetted. We know they have the cash. We know they can close. They're serious investors. And then after that, it goes out to our general list. And, we still sell stuff on our general list all the time because, it's people who want to do 1 or 2 flips a year, and they're going to manage it themselves or rehab it themselves. And then if it won't sell it in that phase, then we will shoot it out to Facebook or Craigslist. And stuff goes for crazy money on Facebook and Craigslist.
That's a great strategy of listing all of your properties as the wholesale deals before you even take them down, just on the front end. Because if you can get 20 or 30K up front versus 40K in the back end,
right,
you probably take that deal all day long up front.
Well, it just allows us. Well, there, when you have a business that has multiple employees, and we have a pretty hefty overhead every month, and we have to cover that overhead. So having properties that are taking 6 months for us to rehab and sell doesn't help us cover our overhead. So that's really help us cover our expenses every month. And our acquisitions team has a goal of, covering our expenses plus a certain amount of profit every month. And they do that with wholesale deals. And then when we rehab stuff, that's just gravy.
Yeah.
That's just gravy, especially new builds too are great. But it's such a long turn that's really hard to plan and execute a real business with that kind of product.
Yeah, it's very management intensive.
Oh, absolutely.
And every product is different. It's not like you're building the same house 40 times over.
That's right.
Every house is different that you're renovating.
That's right. Well, new builds are easier because we have 8 or 9 plans now that we build, and we'll move them around a little bit and change a few things, but we're getting pretty good at building those. But minimum you're into those is 8 months.
Yeah.
With money just flying out the door. So we have to be really careful about that.
So one of the most common issues I hear from other investors is how to find and retain good contractors. Right. Yeah. Do you have any advice or anything you've learned over the years that you might be able to pass on to the audience?
Well, I'd say first of all, you need to be a good employer.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep good crews around, number one, you got to keep them busy. That's been the number one thing. If we can keep somebody busy, they don't have to go out and market for deals or market for work, then, they're asking us, when's the next project? I want our best guys to be constantly asking us, do you have another project for me? Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll actually buy deals that we would normally wholesale because we want to keep our contractors busy. Mm-hmm. So there's a little balance there. And so you want those types of guys, you want to keep them busy, and then you got to pay them quickly.
Yeah.
And we have systems set up so that we can get guys their checks within a few days of getting an invoice. And they love that, because they're going to work for America's Homes for Rent or some of these other companies, and they're 60, 90 days for a check. And
it's hard for them to run their business like that.
Yeah, most of them are running, they're running hand to mouth. They've got big families that they're supporting, and they love getting that paycheck.
Yeah.
Every week or every couple of weeks. So that's been really great, is just payment. And then just building a relationship with them. People forget that this is a relationship business. And we want to have relationships with our sellers, but if you don't have a good relationship with your contractors and you don't give them that emotional paycheck, good job, great job, here's a little bonus for doing a great job,
right,
and constantly encouraging them. Now, if they suck, of course, you're not going to encourage that behavior, but if you've got a good crew, you want to give them that emotional paycheck too.
Yeah.
So that's just as important, I believe.
So for people who are looking to grow their contractor team, do you have any advice on how to weed out some of the bad apples on the front end before you start a project and he goes to jail?
This is so easy. Yeah, the easiest way to weed out bad contractors is to ask them for their insurance certificates.
Yeah.
Yeah, there goes 50, 60% of them right there. We'll need your insurance before we can start work. Oh, I don't have insurance. Okay, well, bye-bye. We're done. Because the nice thing about them having insurance is, let's say you have a siding contractor who goes and he screws up your siding, and a year later it's rotting out, and the homeowner calls you, and we like to try and fix things. Or if it's a new build, you have a 1-year warranty. If they don't have insurance and they've skipped town, guess who's paying for it?
You are.
And there's nothing I love better than calling or texting one of my contractors who has a repair they need to do and they won't respond to me. I said, do you want to fix this, or do you want me to just call your insurance and submit a claim? And they're there the next day because they don't want claims on their insurance. It's going to be way more expensive for them to explain to their insurance company why I'm submitting a claim. So that's huge. And then I always ask for references. Give me some references. I want to go see projects. If they don't have any active projects, no. We're done.
Red flag right there.
Huge red flag. Huge red flag.
Yeah.
They should be busy. Like, I only want to hire busy guys. I want to be stealing busy guys from other investors or other homeowners. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Has it been any different finding contractors for your new construction versus the renovations, or has it been a pretty similar learning experience?
Well, that's a different method because you're using a lot of subs. You've got your foundation sub and your framing subs and your electrical, mechanical, plumbing, roofing, all those guys. So we've got a really great crew built now. They understand what we expect. We know what their pricing is going to be. There's just not a whole lot of surprises. Every now and then, of course, we'll have a surprise, but that's very different in new builds. So it's really just it's the fill-in trades that you have to, like punch-out guys and landscapers and those kind of guys are still a little bit hard to find good ones. But, like, for instance, drywall in a new construction project, we want to use the same contractor to do drywall and paint.
Yeah.
So that there's one point of responsibility. That's been huge. Anytime we can do that, where we can consolidate responsibility on a single contractor, on a single sub, that really, really helps us build the house properly. And then if we have any warranty issues or any punch issues, it's just so easy. And you might pay a little bit more up front for that, but I think it probably saves you money or you break even, and it definitely saves you a lot of stress.
For
on
sure,
the, on the back end.
When you're trying to get somebody to come back and fix something, they love to blame it on somebody else. But if they did those 3 trades in a row, then it's all on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the funny things I always find about contractors, and this is every single one of them I've ever had, I've never had another contractor actually compliment another contractor's work. I wouldn't do it that way.
Yeah.
I can't believe they did it that way. I'm like, oh, God, After hearing that for about the 50th time, I was like, okay, I'm on to you guys now. You're the best, right? So, so that's it. And we market for contractors almost as hard as we market for deals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, there's turnover. You get 7, 8, 9 deals or projects out of a contractor normally, and then you're done.
Yeah.
They start taking advantage of you. So I've had a couple guys that I started out with, 7, 8 years ago, and I used them for 10 deals to flip. And then we took a little 2-year hiatus, and then I called them up again.
Yeah.
And we started up again. And I've got one right now that we're using. This is our third cycle of doing this. And so far, so good.
Knock on wood, right?
Yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Can you talk a little bit about when you're doing flips and you do a renovation, sometimes you try to keep the budget under 15 grand. Can you talk about how you do that and why you do that a little bit?
Keep the budget under 15. Yeah. So if you can keep the budget under 15 grand and you're not moving plumbing, electrical walls, those kinds of things, you can actually go in and do a rehab without a permit in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So, but the second you start moving plumbing and electrical and walls, you have to pull a permit. And, the permitting process will add 50% to a construction schedule just for inspections and the type of crews you have to get in. Because I can't have my handyman go in and rewire switches. I have to have an electrician do it. And that's a whole different step. And all those trades, they want everybody out of the house while they're working. I don't know why that is. But we get calls all the time. Hey, why's the HVAC guy in here? We're like, because he's doing work. We're trying to get the house done. Well, I don't want him in here. So there's this protective nature that we have to deal with. So if you can get your house done under 15 grand, wink, wink, then
do you pay for material separately?
Well, we try and be realistic about it. And at the end of the day, if you're going to be moving stuff around, you want to pull a permit because you don't want to be going to sell a house and have the realtor ask you, did you pull permits? and you should have pulled permits and you didn't, and you lose a sale because of that. Plus it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It is the right thing to do. And it's saved us a couple of times when our subs have screwed something up. It got caught by the inspectors, something where our project managers missed it and the inspector caught it.
Yeah.
And so it was, it was good to have that inspection. I have a couple of shower pans we did years ago that, we didn't pull permits on, that I had to go back 3 years afterwards and replace because they didn't put a liner in. Had we pulled a permit, there would have been a pan inspection. Yeah. So we pull permits on everything now.
That's awesome. Yeah. What are some costs to watch out for when flipping that ended up being huge at the end of it that you didn't see going into it that now you look for?
Recent ones, I've got quite a few examples, but I'll keep it short. Bad electricians. So if you have a cheap electrician, you think you're going to try the guy out, just be warned. I had a flip that I just did recently. I had the electrician come in, my new cheap electrician that I was going to try, and I'd had him work on my house a couple times. So I thought, this guy's all right. He came in and wired the house up, and nothing worked. Like none of the wiring was all wrong. So I had to have another electrician come in and basically almost rip everything out and replace it. It was that bad. And
That's
so,
rough.
What should have been an $8,000 electrical job was a $14,000 electrical job. And then also looking for any kind of homeowner add-ons, so stuff that wasn't permitted. Mm-hmm. Like if you have an addition that wasn't permitted, you have to really watch for that kind of stuff because we have one that we bought and we were going to replace the addition. Come to find out it was unpermitted and there was no footing underneath the foundation wall. So those kinds of things can run into some serious costs. Structural stuff, termites. If you can afford to get a termite inspection before you close, $75, it's great money to spend. Crawl space issues will get you every time. You can spend $5,000 to $10,000 in a crawl space real quick, and you get no return on your money.
Nope.
In a crawl space.
Buyers don't see that.
Well, and another thing, turn the water on when you walk through a house. Turn the water on, let it run for a little while, and see if it drains. We've had a couple of split levels. Everything's under the slab, all the piping, and we don't find out that the sewer main is plugged up until we're done and ready to sell the house, and then we got to cut the floor out.
Oh,
so those are floor. Yeah, and you try and remember everything. That's another reason why I'm always talking about systems. If you have that in a checklist. Yeah. Before you buy the house and you check it. So we have all of our stuff inspected before we buy it now. We actually pay an inspection company to go out and inspect the houses before we buy them. And it saves us. Yeah. And then we have them inspect again before we sell, and we fix everything on those inspection reports. So our sales go real smooth.
Yeah, because they give you a giant list. So you can just hand that over to your subs or your project manager. And
that's it. Handle this. Well, we might replace some of this, and we kind of know what we need to look at. Mm-hmm. But big things like, water and sewer and HVAC and electrical and aluminum wiring is another one. If you don't recognize aluminum wiring in a house, and it's all over in Charlotte. Yeah. It's all over. That can get real expensive real quick. Real expensive. So those are just a couple.
No, those are fantastic.
Yeah, the crawl space thing on new construction, if I can fit it in the budget, I love doing a sealed crawl now because everybody's had so many. If you've owned a home before, or you bought a home or sold a home, you've probably gone through a crawl space issue. And
absolutely.
If you can alleviate that from the start on construction side, why not do it?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. If you can seal the crawl space, actually, have been thinking about doing that more, just because you get an inspector under there if it's not pretty and perfect. Yeah. Some of those pictures look like. I can't even explain what those pictures look like, but they can make them look like the house is falling apart, even though it might be one small little defect. And that freaks people out because they're not going to get under there. Yeah. Right. They can go and test the tub faucet and make sure it works, but they're not crawling under the house. They're going to rely on their inspector to tell them what's going on in pictures, right? So that's a good thing. So if you can make the crawl space pretty up front, that helps a lot.
And the inspector loves you for it. He doesn't get covered in dirt and mud and see snakes and
yeah. The last thing you want to do is have be going to sell a house and have the inspector come out of the crawl space covered in mud and mad. Yep. Because guess what? He's going to ding you on everything else. He's going to show you.
That'll be reflected on your inspection.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, we have a love-hate relationship with inspectors. We appreciate what they do, but there are some of them out there that we just shake our heads at like, Have you ever do you really know how a house is built? Do you really know how it works?
Yeah.
And I don't want to belittle them because I appreciate their profession, but there are some that we really struggle with. There's a couple that I won't allow on my properties.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, there's one thing to inspect it and there's one thing to just kill a deal. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, look, whatever you find can be fixed, or the magnitude of what you found, where is that? Is it a big deal, or is that in every house they're going to go look at from here on out anyways?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think the presentation of that is key.
Well, and it's aggravating language.
Yeah.
House could fall down. I mean, there's all kinds of aggravating language that they use in their report sometimes. So I've had a couple guys that I'll ask, who are you using for inspection? And if it's one of those guys, I'm like, nope, find somebody else. So, because they're deal killers. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So you've given us a lot already, but are there any other lessons you guys have learned from flipping hundreds of houses? Whether it's with systems and like mistakes you made early on, or
probably the two biggest things that affect the quality and the success of a flip project, and I know this by personal experience, is setting all the expectations up, up front with the contractor, with everybody involved, with your lender, with everyone. So two of the big things are a scope of work. So you have to make sure and have a very detailed, very thorough scope of work, so that you and the contractor know exactly what what you're expecting of each other.
Yeah.
That includes a pay schedule that's tied to that, and then the selections. So you don't want to be making decisions on what tile and lighting fixtures and plumbing fixtures to put in a house when they're ready to go in. And that's what I think most rehabbers do. It's like, oh, it's time for tile. Let me run down and pick out the tile. Now, you have all that stuff up front and have it ready to go. The other thing too is then you can really price it out and you know what your budget is, And the nice thing is sometimes you can buy stuff early and save money.
Yeah.
Buy stuff during sales and those types of things. So that really helps a lot, having everything picked out up front. And that way, if you're using a contractor that's doing a lump sum, there's not a lot of surprises at the end. So,
yeah, that's great feedback.
Yeah, if you're using the same color tile, I mean, you can always. It's another system you're talking about. Like,
yeah,
if you can go try and use the same one on every flip or remodel, it just helps you out.
And we have several different packages that we have put together with standard selections.
Yeah.
And then we work with, Lowe's or Home Depot or whoever our supplier is, and they'll actually create the list. We'll give them quantities, and they'll go create the list for us, and then everybody knows exactly what we're putting in every house. Does it always work out perfectly? No, it does not. In fact, a lot of times it falls short, but I'll tell you, having that up front sure makes things go a lot smoother. The times I haven't done that, I've regretted it. Absolutely. Especially when I get too busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you see people who are getting into rehabbing, like a mistake that a lot of them make that you shake your head at and like, oh, you definitely shouldn't do that? I'm sure that's one of them, is making decisions at the last minute.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, if you're doing one flip, you can do that. If you have free time and you can just jump in the truck and go to Lowe's and bring materials to the site, then it's not that big of a deal. But if you're doing more than about 3, you better be thinking about how you're going to supply materials, if you're supplying materials, and which ones that you want to go in to your project. One of the things I see them do is they'll do a lump sum contract where materials are included, and they don't specify what materials are supposed to go in. So guess what they get?
The cheapest.
They get the cheapest builder grade crap in there, and then they wonder
the ugliest.
And then they wonder why the faucet explodes the day before inspection. I did that one time. This contractor's great. He had lots of referrals, and okay, well, we walk through it. Here's what we want to do, and give me a bid. And he gave me the bid, and I was so busy, I just signed it. And next thing I knew, I had, Aquasource toilets going in, and just all these really subpar materials.
Yeah,
going in. The crappiest paint he could buy, and it shows. Mm-hmm. It does. It shows when you walk into a house. You can tell. So I see that mistake a lot. And then just in general, not knowing what it really costs to do a rehab. They might put together a spreadsheet with 2 or 3 numbers on it. Well, my spreadsheet's got I want to say it's got 40 numbers on it that are all included in what we look at when we're doing a flip. And it's all time bound. And we have, how much are we paying for interest on our loans? So they're not even thinking about their interest. They're just looking at their gross profit. Yeah. You need to focus on net profit. If you focus on gross, you can make $100,000 gross profit and make $0 net profit. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens, especially if you don't get it done quickly. And then being pushovers with the contractors. They let the contractors run the job rather than them running the job. So those are some of the common mistakes.
Yeah, no, those are great. I definitely see those happen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You talked a little bit earlier about getting out of the $400,000 or $500,000 remodels. That kind of takes us into where do you think the market's heading? Do you not feel as well about that area right now, or where do you see the market going from here on out?
I wouldn't be worried right now if I had one of those, but I'm not going to be out actively looking for those. The feeling across the nation is that we're in the ninth inning right now, and a hiccup in interest rates. And we had a little hiccup, and we saw what it did. It's the real estate market slowed way down with that little hiccup in interest rates. Now they're lowering rates again because they saw what happened. But eventually the Fed's going to have to bring those rates back up. So that's the number one thing that's going to impact pricing. If you're going to buy a $500,000 house, a 1% interest rate raise is a pretty significant raise in payment. So that reduces affordability, and unfortunately, that's the price point that gets hit a lot. Is that over 400, 500 price point? Plus, if you're over, I think it's 562,000, that's a jumbo loan, and the number of people that can buy a house with a jumbo loan shrinks significantly above that price point. So, because most people can't qualify for it.
Yeah.
So that's why I like the lower price points. Plus, it's just a bigger pool of buyers. There's more people that will either buy it as a wholesale deal or buy it as a retail deal. You can even list some of those just as is, and that works out really well for us sometimes. So there's just a lot more exit strategies. You're talking about $500,000 house. You can't rent a $500,000 house and make the payment. It's pretty hard in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. You might be able to get away with that in Seattle or Portland, but here it's hard to rent out a $500,000 house and get $3,500 or $4,000 a month to cover your payment. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's really why we stay out of that.
So mainly the exit strategies. There's not a lot.
No, there's one exit strategy. Yeah. Sell. That's it. I don't like that. I don't like it.
What do your future goals look like? I know you've joined with the Betters and are building a large company. Like what do your goals look like in the next couple of years?
So we have some big financial goals, of course. We want to give away a lot of money. So we want to donate a lot of money. In fact, the Betters are on a plane right now to Honduras. They're both in the medical field. She's a registered nurse. He's a PA. So they're going to Honduras for 10 days.
Wow.
To serve the poor there with their medical skills, which is really cool. They made a donation to that organization as well, so that after they leave, they can continue to have some impact there. But we really, at the end of the day, we want to impact our community and our world with our business. And you get to a certain point where it's like, how much money do you need, right? Yeah. You want to leave a legacy. You want to make an impact. So that's really where we're kind of heading with this, first and foremost. So that's what keeps us motivated and keeps us going. It's not the income. Not that that's not nice, because it is, but that's really where we're headed. And then secondly, freedom. We want freedom. We want to set up systems and hire the right people, so that we don't have to constantly be involved in the business. We can be involved when we want to or when we're just needed, but I don't want to have to work 60 hours a week to run my business. I want to be able to work when I want to, and I know they feel the same way. They have young kids at home, and they want to spend more time with their kids, especially being in the medical field and having to work weekends and those kinds of things. They've missed a lot with their kids. So I think both of us, and my kids are older. I've got my middle daughter just turned 18. So she's, on her way out the door, and I don't want to miss this precious time with her.
Yeah.
And then my son's 13, and I don't want to miss the next, 4 or 5 years with him, because I'm so busy working in my business, I should say. I'm only working on my business, not in it.
Yeah.
The other cool thing about building a real business rather than just having, building yourself a job, is it allows you to do other things that you're passionate about. So we both have we all have other passions that we want to pursue, and you need time to do that.
Yeah.
And if you're, at the office working 60 hours a week, you can't pursue those other things. So just it's having some balance in life too.
Yeah. What are some of the things you like to do? Like, what are you passionate about outside of flipping hundreds of houses?
I love skiing.
Yeah.
I grew up in Salt Lake City, so I grew up on skis. I love skiing.
Yeah.
So me and a group of guys, and I took Zach last year. He loved it. But me and a group of guys take a trip somewhere in the world and go skiing for 4 or 5 days every year. And I like to do that as much as possible. I just love the outdoors. I love hiking, mountain biking. I love mountain biking. It's one of my favorite things to do. I want to get into backpacking and just, those kinds of things where I'm outdoors.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like a lot of people share the same dream and goal of having more financial freedom to be able to spend time where they want to, and then also to make money so they can give it back
right
to what they're passionate about. That's awesome. If you were to get started again all over today, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently in starting, like whether it's flipping or doing new home builds? What would you do differently starting today?
So the big mistake I made early on, I went to that boot camp. I actually hired a coach, which was a fantastic decision. I put $13,000 on my credit card and I knew I had to do something. So I was like, you got to figure this out because I don't want to have to pay this back over the next 10 years with my engineering job, right? So that was definitely one thing I did right. But what I didn't do is I didn't network. I just, I had my coach and I just wanted to figure it out. And I didn't start networking until about 2012, 2013. And that's when things really started to improve and take off, is when I started to network. And that's literally changed my business. So I went up and spoke at the Asheville RIA this last week on Tuesday. And I had a new investor ask me that same question.
Yeah.
It's like, so what would you do different? And I said, I would network more. He's like, it was 9:00 at night. He's like, you want to go to dinner? I said, that's what I'm talking about.
Played.
So he took me out, bought me a $12 dinner, and I'll bet he got, $10,000 worth of nuggets.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting there. And it's so easy because, one of the things I love about Charlotte is the investors who are here are very helpful, myself included, but there's a community and a culture here of helpfulness. We want to help see other people be successful. So, and, I don't see a pie that we all, you can only have so many pieces of the pie. There's just unlimited opportunity here. To me, it's us against the iBuyers right now. So, against the Zillows and the Open Doors and Knox and all those folks, it's us against them right now. So I love helping other investors. Absolutely. And now there are buyers, people that I've known for years that I never wholesaled to. Now we're wholesaling to those people.
Yeah.
And so they're making us money. It's great. It's great.
It's definitely a people business, and you can learn a lot. Like, I could talk to you about a potential flip and you could save me a $10,000 problem of like, oh, look in the crawl space.
Yep. And that happens all the time.
And that takes like 30 seconds from you, and that saves me $10,000. Like, that's huge.
Yep, absolutely.
So before we get off, we've got the lightning round where we're going to ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
You've got 30 seconds to answer each of them. Are you ready?
Where's my buzzer?
We do need a buzzer. That'd be awesome.
You need one of those. That was easy. That's what you need.
All right. Starting off.
That was for free.
Yeah. $10,000. There we go.
Okay.
What's your favorite way to source deals?
I don't have a favorite way. Any way we can get a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love relationships. I love building rapport with people. Now, I don't do that as much anymore, but when my best deals came from long-term rapport building, absolutely. And that's painful for a lot of people. They want to go on the appointment, get the deal,
yeah,
and move on. But a lot of the really good deals take a long time and a lot of effort and a lot of hand-holding, a lot of car trips.
Yep.
Sitting in the driveway. Not that I love doing that, but it's really cool when one of those pays off.
Yeah, it is. Awesome. What role did you outsource or systematize that has had the biggest impact on your business?
Oh, recently project management.
Yeah?
Yeah. We hired a guy named Matt, who's now running our project management division. And he is I can't say enough about the guy. So that's my most recent one. But before that was our acquisitions manager.
Yeah.
And we just decided we're going to just pay the money and hire A players. And it's amazing when you hire A players, what a difference it makes. It brings everyone else up. It brings us up.
Yeah.
We thought we were A players till we put these guys in place. We're like, man, these guys are good. I want them to be better than I am.
Yeah.
And Matt is definitely 100% better than me at running projects. He's just got that kind of brain.
Out of curiosity, what is his background?
So he was a licensed realtor. He worked in a project management company for a while. He actually used to run, and I hope I get this right. Maybe he won't listen to this podcast, but I think he used to run delivery systems in mines. Like, so there was a lot of systems stuff going on there, and timing and scheduling.
Yeah, talk about timing.
And Matt, if you're listening to this, I hope I got that right. But I know we talk about the mines all the time, and so it's amazing to watch his system and scheduling mind work on these projects. Because me, I have a high I when my disc test.
Yeah.
So I want to be relational with people. So I manage my projects in a relational way. He's just very like, look, this is the expectation. This is what's going to happen, or this is what's going to happen. Right. So he's fantastic. And then again, acquisitions manager, getting those appointments. Yeah. Those 7 o'clock in the afternoon appointments or 7 o'clock in the evening appointments off my back and off of Stephanie's back. We're closers, but I don't want to be going on appointments at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So, we found people that'll do that for us.
That's awesome. What's something that you add to your flips that helps separate them from the others, like a Nest, thermostat, or doggy doors, or anything that you add to them?
What we found is not necessarily having to add something kitschy in there, but just high quality. High quality, just details. People walk in to a house and they'll notice something wrong way before they notice something right. You can do all the shiplap and, weathered wood walls you want. If your paint looks like crap, it doesn't matter. They'll walk out the door. So we just try and do high quality, and I'm very picky, very, very picky. I went and blue taped a new build the other day. I used an entire roll of blue tape. I used the whole roll. So, and people notice that stuff. They do, so that's really how we do it. Not to say we don't occasionally put in, some cool feature, but it's really just the quality.
Yeah, just quality workmanship.
Yep. That's absolutely right.
What's your favorite business book?
Oh boy. Right now I'm finishing up Getting Things Done.
Yeah.
And implementing that system. Traction's another fantastic book, Traction and Rocket Fuel. I mean, we built our entire business around the EOS system. So those are fantastic books. God, there's so many. But those are the three that I would say are basic systems books that'll help you go from having a job to having a business.
Yeah, I've read Traction, and that is a phenomenal book for anyone that hasn't read it. It's definitely worth picking up. It'll give you a new perspective on where your role is in your organization and what you need to do to take it to the next level. Yeah,
we were lucky because we did, when we joined, we had a coach, an implementer come in and actually walk us through in 3 days how to set up our company. We built our vision out. We did all that. And it's amazing the rewards that has reaped. So that's been great.
That's fantastic. Well, Jeff, it's been absolutely awesome to have you on. You've given a lot of gold. Before we hop off, is there anywhere that you want our listeners to be able to go to find you or learn more about Better Path Properties?
Yeah, so they can go to our website. It's choosebetterpath.com. So CHOOSE, betterpath.com. So that's our website. And of course, that's, set up to bring in deals. So we don't actually have any deals on the website, but that's where you can find our phone number. Or if you want to get on our wholesalers, on our list for wholesale deals, you can email Noel at Noel, which is NOEL at choosebetterpath.com.
Perfect. And if someone wants to buy you a nice steak dinner or some lobster, can they get in contact with you?
Tell them to call the office.
Call the office. I figure you don't want more coffee.
Yeah, no, I'm good on coffee.
All right. Awesome. Well, Jeff, thanks for coming on today.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Who Knows Real Estate. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and check out our show notes for the guest contact info as well as ours. Be sure to look for our next episode. Thanks.